It is August 26, 2025, at about 7:01 p.m. in the evening, Town Board of Estes Park. This meeting is now in session. Anyone who wishes to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us may do so. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Paddock McNally, thanks for being here. We will move on to agenda approval. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda as written? If not, I will take a motion.
I'll move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Move to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Sinak, seconded by Trustee Youngland. Any other comments? Seeing none, we can vote.
Mayor, I
We
just
do
wanted
have a,
to make one quick note, and this was sent to you all earlier today, but in the agenda item related to the contract award associated with the museum addition work, the original memo erroneously said that it was the Friends of the Museum who were providing funding for that project, and that is actually being financed from the town's capital improvement plan. The Friends provide us with so much support and funding for other things, and I think that's why the error was made there, but I just wanted to note that correction.
okay. Thank you. With that comment, we can vote. Agenda approved. I should, with the note from Deputy Town Administrator, and I do want to mention, you'll notice Frank Lancaster, Trustee Lancaster, not here tonight, but we do have a quorum with the 6 trustees present. We'll move on to public comment for items not on the agenda. Any public comments on quasi-judicial items must be reserved for the appropriate public hearing. Does any member of the public request to speak on a non-agenda item? And you may come forth. Please state your name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes. And make sure and turn on the little center button there. It'll turn on green, so you'll have, there you go.
You hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'm Steve Nagel, 281 North Court. I am here to thank you for handling the parking permits for the post office vans and stuff. You got them out of there. It's working fine. I've heard she has been here pleading with you to reverse that, but please do not. It helps all of Main Street. We can't go backwards on this, and I don't think we should even go backwards in the winter, because that will force them into make a real business plan. The business plan they have now is just take over your neighbor's parking lot. That is not a business plan. So I thank you for doing that. I don't want a reversal. Main Street thanks you. One of the things, evidently she was here about logistics on her buses and stuff. They can take a picture of the mileage on their van when they park it at the rodeo grounds, timestamp it somehow, and then do it again in the morning. You know, there's been the key issue and all that. Anyway, that's just one simple solution where their rental company can see that they have been parked there all night. Okay, very good. So anyway, thank you. No reversals on this. Main Street, it's helping Main Street. It's our parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations coming Friday for the 80th birthday of the Wheel Bar.
Hey, thank you for that.
It's a long time to stay in business, so good stuff.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Any other public comments for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move forward with town board comments and liaison reports. Surprise, surprise, Trustee Brown, you go first today.
I have nothing to report.
Thank you. I've figured out the trick now, Trustee Hazelton.
I do have a few things tonight, Mayor. First, I'll report for restorative justice. They had a board meeting last week where we got to meet the new program director, Jay Shields, which is wonderful. So glad to have him there. Melissa Westover is hanging around helping him get comfortable and learn the ropes. But just great to have that team fully staffed again. And we're just so indebted to Melissa for hanging around as long as she did, and that she'll continue to do. So really excited about that. Few other things I just wanted to note. Chief Stewart shared a little bit about National Night Out for the PD, and said that, they were hoping if they had 40, 50 people, they'd be happy. They had 130 people that showed up, so that's awesome. Really want to give props to the police department for that, and restorative justice was there. I believe the Larimer County DA's office was there as well. We're supportive of it, so really excited to hear that. RJ is working on a number of different mediation trainings, facilitation trainings, school programming with community service officer Mazela, that is a mouthful, and school district counselor Christian Wood. So getting involved at the youth level. But in particular, I've mentioned this before, and I just wanted to highlight it, that restorative justice is doing a crazy carry with the Estes Valley Library on deliberative engagement opportunities for the community regarding the development code update. They are going to have some opportunities the first couple weeks of October, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, they've been working with some smaller groups. They've done 5 total, 74 participants so far that are really focused on different segments of our community, like workforce, homeowners, retirees, that kind of thing, and good discussion about what people would like to see in this development code rewrite. It's really allowing for kind of grassroots level conversations, like ground up conversations that will then come before the development code process versus, anger, discomfort, or unhappiness after the fact, as things get written. So it's just really great work. I'm so honored to be liaison to that board, and just really want to thank them for the amount of time and energy and effort they're putting in on this process. Visit Estes Park, we had a special meeting last week? Yeah, Friday. That was to discuss the CEO search. Most of that session was in executive session, and it was to review some candidates that had come before our partner Searchwide Global in this search. So we will be working on conducting some initial interviews with 3 candidates. So looking forward to that. We do have our regular meeting on Thursday, and the biggest agenda item, in my opinion, is the 2026 operating plan draft review. The board has gotten to see that for the first time, and we'll be sharing some thoughts and hearing from staff about their thoughts for 2026. We'll also be doing some policy review. There's a drone show series proposal coming forward, so it should be a pretty full agenda, and Mayor Pro Tem Sinek and I will report back on that after Thursday. 2 other minor things I just wanted to note. I think Marie will probably talk more about it, but I just attended the cast meeting that was here in Estes Park last week, along with Marie, Jason, Dan, Carly, and Scott. It's a great gathering of folks from around the state and outside of the state as well to talk about things that us mountain resort communities are confronted with. So I'll let Marie give the full report since she's the official liaison, but I was really happy to be a part of that. And finally, I just wanted to give a big thank you to all of our area firefighters for the really significant activity that they have encountered over the past couple of weeks. Certainly our fire district and Glen Haven, Allens Park, Rocky, Alpine Hot Shots were around. So thankful that none of those materialized for us, and very thankful for the rain. But just wanted to give my thanks to those folks who volunteer their time and energy and effort to make sure we're kept safe. And that's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee Youngland.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. The third time's the charm, hopefully. The delegation from Costa Rica have given us another date in which they are supposed to be arriving, September 29th, and they will actually be here till about the 8th of October. So quite a long stint. The numbers look like about 7 people will be coming. And for the sister cities, October 3rd, mark that down, that will be their annual meeting. And the delegation will be there, so you can come and meet them. We will also be doing, Mayor, we signing the agreement between the 2 sister cities on that night, and that will be held at the library. So look for more information coming. We're kind of a little gun shy with 3 cancellations, so I think we're gonna kind of make sure that they have their tickets bought before we really do some publicity. But I just tentatively, please put that in your reminders, because we'd love to have community here for that. The museum. Oh, no, I meant the museum. I don't know why I said the library. Thank you for that correction. So that will be a fun evening for you all to attend. ROAC, our Regional Opioid Abatement Council, we meet this week, so I really don't have anything more to report on that this week. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
So Kirby basically covered the Visit Estes Park, part of the cast. So cast was this weekend, the first time Estes Park's hosted since I've been a cast member, and I think maybe the first time ever. For anybody that does not know, cast is the Colorado Association of Ski Towns, and we deal with issues that are, they might be statewide, but they really are concentrated issues in the mountain communities. And this particular meeting, no shocker, because most of the meetings are talked about it. Housing, workforce housing is a big topic. And and SDRs is another big topic. And I did find it a little interesting that a few of the communities have a different outlook on SDRs. And a lot of those communities are ones that maybe do not have as many hotel rooms as we have. And a lot of that is actually an industry. Their short-term rentals is actually more of an industry than ours is. And there's a few people on this board that want to make it more of an industry, but that's, they don't have the cap that we have for that reason. A few of them feel like they're a little behind the ball in getting the cap, and a few of them don't. So it's just interesting, all the different opinions on that. Our director Bangs was one of the star presenters on childcare, and so another issue that's seen by all the ski communities. The other topic that was, a lot of it you learn from a question time. So we have a question time where people just ask questions, and it's interesting that every community has the issues that we have. They just do. They look at it differently. They have different solutions. Nobody's solved all the issues by any means, but it's just a great way of getting together and talking to people. The housing committee met, talked about their legislation that we're going to look at tonight. And Visit Estes Park sponsored a dinner at the Hive, which I had not been to yet. The Hive is the top of the Estes Park Brewery, and did a really nice job with that dinner, and it was sponsored by Visit Estes Park. So that's that. Thursday night, 5:30 in this room, we have a trustee talk with Trustee Brown and myself. And whoever has not been to one of those, trustee talks were started as just a kind of a round table. We used to sit at a table, so it was a round table. Now it's kind of a round circle. But just to talk, just to talk and have people come and talk about things in town that may bother them, things in town that they like. It's just a conversation. It's not a BITCH session or anything like that. It's just a talk, and which is just really nice. You get to meet people, you get to meet people in the community. So I'd encourage you to come. They're usually pretty low key, but if you have some concerns, please come and talk to us about it. It's a great way to kind of connect with other people in town. It's a great way to connect with this board. So, and that is all that I have.
Thank you, Trustee Eigel.
Thanks, Mayor. A couple of things from my perspective. We have a community survey going on right now that helps Estes Park leadership, staff make decisions on where the future is going for our community. It is online. Find it if you visit the town website, estes.org. It is worth every minute for you to weigh in on that, if you please will. That would be helpful for us to help get a sense of what the community wants without going to all the meetings. So there's an opportunity for you. I sit as a liaison with the Police Auxiliary, about 20 members that volunteer their time to ease the relationship between visitors and community, and often the wildlife. Auxiliary is busy with our special events in town. They function as a part of the police department in many of the law enforcement functions, and we'll see them in the schools in the coming months. They will work with the school resource officer to be present, and more eyes is better, and it's a good representative of our town, the local government, and our community members, so watch for them. The big thing that I want to call out is a member of the police auxiliary who retired, and they recognized at the last meeting. And the name you're going to remember, and you might not know why, but Sue Pinkham retired, and some are like, Sue Pinkham. I don't know Sue Pinkham, but I knew a Mayor Pinkham. So we had a Mayor Pinkham, and Sue Pinkham, yep, on the wall here behind me was 3 mayors ago, a couple mayors ago. But I want to talk about Sue. Sue volunteered with the auxiliary for 19 years. She was at times vibrant and engaged, and other times, like all volunteers are, she was showing up. And Sue always had a cheery attitude about what she did with that. She is leaving the state with her husband for family matters, but she retires having served through the auxiliary. Sue also volunteered, and she actually worked with the fire district a little bit in the early days before wildland urban interface was a catchphrase or popular in conversation. Sue was doing evaluations on properties, and she was the authority. And when you went to a community event, Sue had all the answers in the pamphlets. So she has represented our community so well over the years, and we will miss her cheery attitude and wish her well and her husband Bill well as they travel and move. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple items, if I'm going to mention the wheel. It's the 10-year anniversary of Rock Cut this weekend, too, so we need to make sure and get that plug out there. We have a lot of beer in this town. I became a member of the museum and went to their social a few days ago. That's such a great operation. Derek Fortini and his team just do an amazing job and have evolved that into such a wonderful organization. I had a meeting with the fellow who is spearheading the dementia daycare effort for the last year and a half, and I do want to make mention of that. I think they're about halfway to their target of critical mass for funding that they think they'd have to run a perpetual operation. And that would seem to me in a town where we have 40% or more over age of 65, it would be a very good operation to have here in town. So if that's something you could help with, that'd be a good thing. I continue to look forward to the time when Estes Park Health wraps up the acquisition with UC Health. I continue to support that as rapidly as possible that they can get to that. And I'm certainly hoping to hear movement on the fire department in the not too far future and try to get to a point of stability and cohesion in that organization. Finally, on Friday, I get to give out the Mayor's Art Award. If you ever saw any of my oil painting, which is rare and hard to find, why they let me do this, I'm not sure. Most of it is either in the basement or the garage. My wife banishes it from anywhere in the house. However, it's a great event, the whole plein air event that happens over a couple weeks, and a lot of great artists, a lot of great stuff. So visit the Art Center and take advantage of watching the artists and all of that good stuff. I do have one item to mention that I intended to bring up at the end of the study session. PRPA, the Platte River Power, has been reworking the organic contract under which we and the other 3 municipalities have been in agreement for how to operate for the last many decades. And they've been updating it. Almost all of the changes are updating language from 30 or 40 years ago to modern language. There was a session to which all of the town councils were invited a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, and we did have some attendance from Estes as well as the other 3 municipalities to take a look at the red line version. What I would like to ask is that for the next board meeting, the first one in September, that we'll be providing the information, the red line contract and the new contract to Deputy Town Administrator Dan Weber, and he will put that together in the form of a resolution that we can consider that night. If we need additional discussion, we'll go beyond that to the board meeting 2 weeks after that. But with the consent of the board, I'd like to bring that to the September meeting. I see nodding heads, so sounds like we're good. I'll get you all that information. The other 3 municipalities are also in the process of going through their review. I should mention that this will come to the board after being approved by the PRPA board, on which all 4 mayors and utility directors sit. And so this will have been approved by the PRPA board before it comes before you for ratification. Town Attorney Kramer.
Mayor, I'll just let you know, I think that Director Bergston is planning on bringing that forward. I don't want to speak for him, but I don't think he's here, so thought I
Okay,
would mention
good.
that.
Yeah.
I don't, is he here? I think it's fair to say that hearing the mayor's comments, Ruben will be moving that as quickly forward as possible. I've already taken a preliminary look at it. I don't think I'm going to have any concerns, so we'll try to move that through. If we don't have it for the next meeting, we'll beg your forgiveness, but that, I think we'll be able to do that.
All right, thanks. We'll move on to the Town Administrator report. Deputy Town Administrator Dan Weber.
I have nothing to report this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. The consent agenda, I will read it into the record in full. What do we have? We've got 6 items. Item 1, and you see it on your screen, expenditure approval list, bills. Item 2, town board meeting and study session minutes dated August 12th, 2025. Item 3, town board and Estes Park Planning Commission joint study session minutes dated August 7th, 2025. Item 4, resolution 8025, zero emissions vehicle transition plan for transit. Item 5, Resolution 8125, contract with Freedom Homes LLC for the Museum Annex Edition project, $358,500 budgeted. And item 6, directing staff to decline the town's right to purchase Platte River Power Authority Windy Gap water rights. And those are all defined in the packet, of course. Do we have any member of the public who wishes to have an item removed from the consent agenda, including board members? I see none. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as written?
That's so moved, Mayor.
I'll second.
Trustee Eigel moved to approve. Mayor Pro Tem Sinak seconded. We can vote. Consent agenda approved 6-0 as written. We'll move on to reports and discussion items, outside entities. Larimer County Transportation Funding, and we have Larimer County Commissioner Shattuck McNally and Community Planning, Infrastructure and Resources Director Ellis. I gave you a double plural there or something. I will turn that over to the presenters, and we will listen with great interest. What is your first name?
Leslie.
Leslie, yeah. Did I think I met you at one of the CML?
Emergency operations.
Oh, okay,
training.
yeah, there was that, yeah.
Good evening, Mayor Hall, Mayor Pro Tem Sinek, and trustees. Thank you so much for this opportunity to join you this evening. Of course, anytime I'm up in Estes Park, it's a good day or evening, and I've been up here a lot lately, camping and hiking, and actually up in Rocky Mountain National Park just a couple days ago, doing some restorative and regenerative planting in a restoration area. So I may not always be letting you know I'm up here, but I'm up here a lot. So, and I always make sure. I just love all the business up here and try to buy something before I leave. But I am Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shad McNally, Chair Pro Tem, and I am here this evening with Leslie Ellis, our Director of, we call her CPERS Director. You can probably say that now that you've said the long title, and we struggle over it as well. But she is amazing, and she has been leading this. But we're here to talk about the Larimer County Transportation Plan. I'm going to start off with just kind of a beginning, and then I'm going to let the Director share about the Transportation Safety Plan and the Transportation Plan that we're in almost final approval here. And then I'll talk about, I can talk about a ballot initiative at the end. But, you know, I think we all can say that transportation is kind of the glue for our daily lives in our community. It's also about safety. And I think it was former U.S. Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh stated that good transportation is essential from getting from good homes to good jobs. So really important that it's not really important for collaboration and partnership. It's not a isolated incident. We know how many people commute back and forth in our community, and certainly tourism is also really important for transportation. And we know we've had to build the infrastructure around. So I'm going to just share with a little bit of you. I don't know how many roads are in Estes Park, miles of roads, but I know it is significant. But the Larimer County, we're in charge of ensuring safety, resiliency, and efficient mobility for travelers for over almost 900 miles of county roads and 421 bridges that are used daily. That's a lot of mileage. We're over 2,600 square miles, and we're bigger than the state of Delaware, and so we have a lot of ground to cover, and a lot of them are really remote roads. Many of these bridges, well, first, you know, local and regional access is essential for our safety and our well-being of our communities in lots of ways, which I have covered just a few of those. And many bridges are over 50 years old and fail to meet current travel demands and safety requirements. And we could go into that, but we have just a short amount of time, so we're going to kind of stay high level at these slides. But investing, as you know, sooner saves on replacement costs, and funds would allow county to match funds and work with our partners, such as the town of Estes Park, to work on projects together. As you know, investing, when you have a vehicle, you put on new tires and do the oil change, and if you do not, and if you don't take care of that, and you will have very costly repairs. It's something that we know is also true with transportation. So since we are now, the board has voted to put this on, I'm going to let Director Ellis talk about the facts of our safety action and transportation plan, and she's going to kind of do the middle portion of this presentation. Thank you, Director.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting us on this topic. And I'll breeze through really quickly. Mostly this is just for awareness so that you know that this plan exists and know where to find it if you have questions or want to dig in. As Commissioner Shattuck McNally mentioned, we have two parts: a safety action plan that was approved, the board approved it back in April, and then we're in the final stages of the transportation plan, just doing some minor edits, but it'll all be approved here shortly this month. So it includes the vision that you see here before you, a number of goals around choice, safety, and funding is one of those goals, but really about how traffic moves and how people get around, and that's some of the priorities that you heard earlier. The plan covers all the topics related to a transportation system, roadway improvements, bike, pedestrian, transit as well. And I wanted to just jump in specifically on some of the projects that are in the Estes Valley area, and there actually are quite a few of them, as you can see on the list here, but they're, several handfuls that are around paving projects, but also include wider shoulders and bike improvements on the county roads that you see there, Devil's Gulch, all around the valley, as well as some paving projects, some intersection improvements. And then it identifies also the Bustang transit connection. And then there's a wide variety of projects really in all those categories that you saw, but we just want to make sure that that the public understands that it's not just roads, but those are important, transportation for vehicles, but also making sure that we're addressing safety and mobility for bicycles, for pedestrians, and so on. And again, you can see there the projects that are in the Estes Valley for roadway and bike and pedestrian projects specifically. The plan does identify about 500 projects, and it projects a shortfall without any sort of additional form of funding at this point. So this is where I'll turn it back over to Commissioner Chadwick McNally. Thank you.
Yeah, because we have now voted to place this ballot initiative to talk about funding and the shortfall. We need it. Plain and simple, we need it. And we have been working on this local funding project for several years along with the town of Estes. And without a funding source, we cannot cover the $650 million in unfunded projects that are needed over the next 25 years. We'd only be able to pay for about 14% of that, of the need through 2040. We only have about $7 million a year for projects every year. Out of your property taxes, most people don't maybe understand that only $15 a year come out of property taxes that goes to the county, and I'd be more than happy to sit down with Budget Explorer. I know the mayor has looked at that with me at length. Only $15 a year comes out of that to the county for roads and bridges, but out of that 15, we only get to keep 9. We send 6 back to the municipalities. So that's something in state statute that we have to do. So really only at a $600,000 home, only 75 cents a month goes to transportation by state statute that we are able to spend out of collected funds. So just wanted to kind of share that little tidbit, because a lot of people don't maybe understand all the nuances with property taxes and what we can and where we can spend it. So we did do outreach over this last year with the help of some partners and consultants, and we surveyed over 1,300 residents in March and another 1,600 in July. And we met with over 30 stakeholders from across the county, and those were staff members from all of our municipalities and other partners, and with our chambers and businesses. And we launched an interactive and informational website, which has been actually pretty active and very popular. And we shared the information through social media and other channels, as you see the bus there. Actually, I ended up being behind that last night or the night before, and I'm like, oh, there's the bus. I have been looking for this all summer, and then finally, when I'm not looking for it, it's right in front of me. So I was really excited. So I pulled out my phone at the stoplight and took a picture. Look, I found it. And then we met and spoke with organizations and groups, and that includes, Windsor, Berthoud, Estes, Chambers, and Fort Collins. And the Chamber of Estes Park, not Estes Park, of Loveland and Fort Collins are taking this on to, now that it's on the ballot, they'll be championing it for us. And so last year, also we tested language. A majority of the people that we surveyed and reached out approve of the job of the county. We have all this data, approves of the job that county is doing. It was actually a very high number, and I'd be more than happy to walk that through you. Someday I can come and show you all those numbers, and that we're doing to manage transportation systems and think that we are spending the taxpayer money very wisely. And they see this as being somewhat important as transportation plan and funding this for really the biggest reason was readiness for emergency situations such as fires, evacuations, and floods, which I know Estes Park, unfortunately, is very well acquainted with those situations. Also, that was 95%. That was with those surveys, 95%, that was the top one. So I wanted to share that. The next one was reduced traffic congestion. And as a commuter myself, I'm the only commissioner who lives unincorporated. I have a long commute, and 92% felt that was important. And then the next area that thought being somewhat and very important was safety, improved safety for all users, and that was 85%. So out of those surveys, those 3 top were the ones that were rated as somewhat or very important in that survey. And again, I can send you that survey and let you look at some of those numbers. If you're interested, just contact me and I'll help you with that. And we also tested kind of the ballot language. We found one that the people would likely support. And since now we're asking voters, about adding that language and clarifying. We wanted to clarify that this is sales tax that would be excluding groceries, diapers, and infant and hygiene products. And I think a lot of people don't remember the county does not tax those items now and would not be taxing on this transportation either. So this informational website, Invest in Larimer, there's a QR code, and there's all these transportation projects and some of that survey data. All the stuff we talked about is a really interactive and cool website. If you're a geek like me about data and information, I encourage you to go check it out. And there's a full list of all the projects and the survey results that I had mentioned before. And it's still existing and up there for the public to educate and learn about. And on August 12th, that seems like months ago, it was just a little bit ago, we approved a resolution describing the proposal of a 15% countywide transportation sales and use tax to fund and for road and bridge and other transportation infrastructure improvements focused on safety, congestion, maintenance, and mobility. And we referred that ballot issue to the 2025 coordinated election ballot, and we're calling for an election. And so with that, I just wanted to, so I can talk about that, and that's, our staff are here to be able to ask factual questions, but as commissioners, we are full support of this and very excited to see this after all this work over the last year or plus, working with our consultants, talking with community, and getting out and getting feedback. We know everyone understands this is a really big need. So here is the ballot language that will be on. It will raise about almost $17.5 million over a period of 15 years for countywide transportation sales and use tax, not applying to the sales of food for the home consumption, gasoline, diapers, prescription drugs, and other purposes for safer roads, bridges, and intersections for motorists, pedestrians, and cyclists, better mobility and reliability for all travelers, construction, maintenance, and improvements to the transportation system, and so on. So with that, I think that's, actually, do I have a couple more, I think. Here is what we're going to ask in November. So for 15 cents on every $100 purchased, and this would, like I said, almost $15 million annually to cover all these costs. And you saw that we have $650 million in need. And this would help us kind of chip away at those plans. And we have a list of priority projects right now. And if without these funds, we will be cutting essential transportation projects that would both have immediate and long-term impacts on roads and bridges, including cuts to safety, traffic mitigation, and road improvements, which we really don't want to do, but as you know, we don't have the funding. So with that, I hope you like this photo. I really enjoy some of the transportation photos. It's kind of from our east side to our west side, looking at our plains all the way up into our mountains, our beautiful and gorgeous Larimer County. And I appreciate the time to present this evening. And I'm really grateful for our partnerships and the work we do together. And I know Estes Park is very familiar with transportation needs and the safety issues. So with that, I can answer almost every question, but lots of data questions, I'll let Director Ellis. So any questions?
I don't have a question, but I want to comment that personally, I'm very supportive of the sales tax. If I haven't mentioned it in one of my media columns yet, it will certainly be in there soon and before the election. And I would say it's in the local papers, but they're all online, so anybody in the universe can read them, including everyone else in Larimer County. So yeah, I think that it looks like a pretty good deal to me, the 0.15 and all of that maintenance to all of those roads and infrastructure. So good stuff. Thanks for the presentation, Trustee.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for going so efficiently through it. It's as if you often listen to people making presentations and understand the value of high points and then opening it up to conversation.
Yeah.
One of those conversation points that I have heard come up is when you show the map of the local area. Of course, we were curious about our neighborhood. What are the priorities for Estes Park, and what are the commitments of the project to our community if this does pass? And on the other hand, if there are cuts, do you anticipate cuts in service, or how do you anticipate either a positive or a negative impact on our community?
Would you like to answer that, Director Ellis? Do you feel like that's comfortable for your zone, or would you?
Go ahead and I can.
No, you go ahead and start. You go
Yeah,
ahead and I'll fill in.
I'll just point out again, these are the projects that are identified in the plan. And I should mention too, this is all online on Larimer on the Move, if you want to look at the plan. So there's maps, and then there's figures and tables that list all the projects. And so One of the things that is addressed in the ballot language is that there would be an annual reporting process, and there would be transparency around which projects get prioritized, and of course, with a goal to make sure that there's geographic representation in a wide variety of projects, but they are also prioritized grossly in the plan, and so there would be a more fine prioritization process going forward if we had funding to address the needs of the projects. But these are the ones that have all been identified. They're not in priority order in this list, but you can see that, there are quite a few that are around the valley, north, south,
Sure.
in every direction. So
Yes,
there's a
I
lot of
remember
county roads.
conversations about almost all of these. And in fact, Pole Hill came up the other day about paving, and there was some speculation. The county does a great job keeping that up a few times a year, but you always wonder, is this the year they pave it? So good information. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, and that's a great question. And when it comes to cuts, I would say, again, prioritization, we have no list as right now. We would go through and prioritize those. We're in, I think our county manager said she has 38 budget meetings with departments right now. So we're fine granularly with all the things we're looking at, cuts with our budget with the state and federal cuts that are impacting the county. So we are pretty serious about data-driven decisions, but also we understand, there's other inputs for priorities. And certainly our staff have been in contact and really deep conversations with town board staff and other staff and with the chambers as well. And so and also with public safety, with law enforcement and public safety, because that's another important partner in this. And so it has been a wide and diverse representation of stakeholders in this conversation. I hope that helps answer the question. Thank you.
Trustee Brown.
So I have a question. This is the only tax initiative that the county is presenting? Is that correct? Because I know there was some discussion about a sales tax for, I think it was childcare, was it?
Yeah, and so last week, the Early Childhood Council of Larimer County had presented to us and asked us as a board. They've been working on this for 4 years. We did not put it on we did not come to a point where we felt we wanted to put it onto the ballot back in 2021, but we did an RFP for putting out for partners to work on childcare in Larimer County. They applied and won that RFP, and so that that RFP's been in place, but they approached us with all the partners. You should have seen the room. Half of them were small kids under the age of 5 for the Teachy Tree childcare. You've never seen them. I'm not kidding. They were so quiet and so well behaved for probably an hour. I was blown away. It was like, oh, these kids are really good kids. And they listened to all us talking. And we did, because of the public ask, we placed that on the ballot. Okay. And that is something that we cannot, as a county, advocate. We're not running that campaign. That is the Early Childhood Council and their folks that are doing that.
So it's essentially a citizen initiative of some sort?
Yeah, they really wanted us to see this. And so as folks in the audience know, and you all know, that's why you ran that tax, childcare and workforce and housing is a need. And I think there are a lot of municipalities and folks are putting things on the ballot, but this is something that we have been in conversations with them at length and in depth. And I think childcare is, as I think you also said with CAST, that was common. And we meet with county commissioners and different associations with CAST and other mountain communities, and this is something that we all have to tackle, and unfortunately, they all need money, and so that's kind of how this goes. But I'm a local control gal, and so I feel like this is locally driven and local projects and locally trying to meet the needs of the community, and I think these were vetted through staff and through community as this process went.
Do you know what percentage sales tax that would be? Because that's a sales tax measure too, I think.
Right, I think that was 25 cents on $100.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So would it be after 2040 that we get the flying Ubers and buses up the canyon, you know?
Well, I'm a member, and I attend, it used to be NOCO Places 2050.
Yeah.
And now it's NOCO Places, and it's all the way from, Larimer County, from the Wyoming border down to Jefferson County, where we're with state and federal partners, including National Park Service. And we did have a presentation 2 years ago because it caught my attention, where other places in the world have flying little, pods that fly them to their destinations. And we started talking about what that looks like. And I was like, oh, that's a new thing I hadn't thought about. What kind of policy do we need to protect? Because I could just see them flying overhead everywhere.
I'd pay a whole percentage sales tax for that.
Well, on I-25 down in Denver, that was certainly attractive.
Yep.
Yeah, certainly.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
This is terrific, Commissioner and Director. Thank you so much for this good information for the board.
Thank you, and I really highly encourage you, if you have questions, Commissioner Kafal, Stevens, or I, be more than happy to, come with some information, and the website has all of that, but if you have more questions, please reach out on anything. We're partners, and I really value your input and your feedback, and so would love to share that with you. And Mayor Pro Tem, I'll send you the picture of your son with the rodeo with Congressman DeGoose. So, okay,
Well,
great.
Thanks so much, and
Thank you.
next time you're
Have a good
coming up, I will order sun for you, so.
Okay, no, it's kind of nice not having 90 degrees, so,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
We'll move on to action items. We have item 1 under action items, Resolution 8225, eighth modification to the reimbursable agreement, DTF H6814E004, with the Central Federal Lands Highway Division of the Federal Highway Administration for the Downtown Estes Loop Project. And we have Director Greer here.
Thank you, Mayor and trustees. I'm honored to be, this is my first presentation, official presentation to speak to you guys, so I'm honored. So this eighth modification to the reimbursement agreement is with the Central Federal Lands Highway Administration or Highway Department that extends the period of our agreement until the end of December of 2027. That gives us time to do what's called a LOMA, or a letter of map revision, to map the floodplain that's been affected from the construction of this project. And so that takes about 18 months probably. And so the Central Federal Lands Highway Division will be hiring a contractor to do that study. And but we need to keep this agreement in place until that is done so we can close it out properly at that point. And that's about it, really.
The public,
Your mic.
any member of the public wish to speak on this item? I don't see motion. Board members, trustees, questions, comments? Trustee Youngland.
Is this something that was expected and knowing all along that at the end of the project this would need to be done, or is this something that came up over?
Sure. Yeah, it was
incident?
expected that it would need to be done. Anytime you have a large project like that that affects the floodplain, you have to revise, if you're revising the floodplain, you have to map it. And
Okay.
get it through the federal FEMA process.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Eigel.
Just want to call out that one of the items in the document that you provided indicates that any additional funding or any other costs to the town will have to be separately approved. This does not approve any financial commitment. It does not set the stage for us to spend or to commit in any way other than keep this open as a conversation, as a communication tool, as a relationship.
As a relationship, yes, that's what it's in place for. We have a memorandum of agreement that caps the town spending at $1.5 million at that point. And so any additional funds that would have to come, if they're being requested, would have to go, and we'd have to amend that COA to allow that additional cost to be incurred. We do not anticipate that happening. We still have about $9,000 we haven't been invoiced for from the original reimbursement agreement. But as far as any other additional costs, it would not, this agreement does not approve any additional costs being incurred.
Okay, and you answered my other question, which was you don't anticipate any other costs.
Correct.
So thank you for that.
Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
This isn't really a question for you, but maybe for Jason, it's really probably for Travis, but maybe Dan will remember too. The cost wasn't supposed to be more than 1.5 to the town. Didn't we vote a few years ago? The town voted to increase that?
Yeah, originally, well, go ahead.
It didn't go over well with me, but it did get voted.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. I don't have in my memory right now exactly how much that was for or when we did that, but I know what you're talking about. It was more recent, and we increased our contribution at the request of Central Federal Lands.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that was in November of 2022. Yeah, for an additional 1.5 million.
Other questions or comments? Without that, I would actually take a motion to approve the resolution.
I move for the approval of Resolution 82-25.
Second?
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve. Trustee Youngland seconded. Any further comments? We can vote. Mr. Greer, thank you. Your first presentation wins all green, so there you go. We'll move on to item 2. Actually, this is a public hearing. So the next order of business will be the public hearing on action item 2, ordinance 1525, temporarily suspending certain provisions of chapter 17.66 of the Estes Park Municipal Code rather than prohibit feather flag signs, so fairly restrictive. At this hearing, the Board of Trustees shall consider the information presented during the public hearing from the town staff, public comment, and written comments received on the item. Any member of the board may ask questions at any stage of the public hearing, which may be responded to at that time. I declare this public hearing open, and we have Director Caressia to give us a report.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Again, item is consideration of ordinance 15-25, and what that proposal would do would be to suspend regulations relating to feather flags. And those regulations are contained in chapter 17.66 of the municipal code. That's basically the sign code for the town. And in that sign code, wind signs, those are prohibited. And the wind signs are, the inflatable dancing signs, feather flags, balloons, things like that, wind-driven signs. So those are all prohibited in our current regulations. So on August 12th, Town Board had a study session, and at that study session, certain items were deliberated, and the direction to staff was look at feather flags, a specific component of the wind signs, and see if you could come up with a limited, narrow, focused ordinance that could allow them. So with the town attorney drafted the ordinance before you tonight, again, narrowly focused, it would specifically allow just the feather flags as defined in the ordinance through December of 26. And that date coincides with hopefully the date that around the development code update will be adopted. So during that time, the next year and a half, staff will be working with the consultants, stakeholders, the public on a more comprehensive update to the sign code. But in the meantime, we will have this temporary suspension that would allow feather flags. And to qualify to be allowed, again, the town board directed limited, narrow focus. It would be just feather flags as defined in the ordinance and as with that picture. So those signs that you see posted up in front of a store, kind of waves in the wind, looks like a flag, but we'll call them the feather flags. Certain criteria that will have to be met. Just one per lot. So each business, that lot, get just one. Maximum height, 12 feet. Setback from a street or sidewalk or alley, again, 12 feet. Again, just some separation from traffic and pedestrian traffic. Also would count towards their overall allocation of signage. So if you were already maxed out for your business, unfortunately, you wouldn't qualify. But if you had reserve, you could potentially request a feather flag. Also, there'd be no permit requirement, no fee. So we're suspending that portion of the sign code as well.
Just a quick question, and maybe I just didn't read it, it might be in there. But what about the areas that have multiple businesses in the same lot? Is it in there? And I mean, I just missed it.
Mayor, trustees, the way the ordinance is crafted is it's one sign per lot.
Okay,
So-
that's what, okay.
So if multiple businesses, just one sign.
Were there any restrictions on location, including the downtown corridor?
Yes, exactly, Mayor, good question. These would only be permitted in non-residential zones, so no residential, as well as it's not permitted in our downtown district.
Trustee Youngland.
In reading through, I did not see any kind of note about the flag being, let's say it's all tore up or it doesn't look good or whatever that was brought up by an email. And I didn't see anything in there in reference to the upkeep of the sign itself or the flag itself. Is that something you feel that needs to be, like I said, it was brought up by an email that a constituent sent in and made me start to thinking with our winds up here, it could get pretty tethered pretty quickly. And do we have anything in place that will enable us to request that to be replaced if it is not looking good?
Mayor, trustees will probably tag team this answer, but that is a good point. These signs can be prone to damage from the elements. That's, again, one of the disadvantages of this sign type. The way the ordinance is crafted, it's very specific in the criteria. It also does not suspend. The only suspension is what's listed in the ordinance. Every other sign code requirement, development code requirement, municipal code requirement still applies. So you do need to maintain your property, keep it in good working condition.
And Mayor and Trustee Youngland, that we do have a general requirement for signs in our sign code on installation and maintenance. And the Community Development Department has the right to order the repair or removal of any sign which is defective, damaged, or substantially deteriorated. So that would be covered.
Trustee Igo.
The only thing that stood out to me was the, if you look at the data the ending date of this, the way business seems to go in town, there is very busy until, boy, maybe the 2nd or 3rd of January, depending on how weekends fall and holidays fall. My only recommendation or suggestion would be that the effective date be through January 10th. And that would give a little bit of an opportunity, unless there's an issue with going into another year. But we may well be in a holiday weekend, and we just may avoid some challenges by going out to the 10th or something like that, giving a little bit of a window to get these signs down. Because the way this reads, these signs all come down by that end date. So that would be my only recommendation on this, but otherwise I would support this and I'm prepared to make a motion if it's appropriate.
I first need to, and I'll get to you, Trustee Brown, but let me open it for public comment if any member of the public wishes to comment on this topic. And I see none. Trustee Brown.
I want to thank staff for being as timely on this as they have been. It is a significant thing, and I'm glad that it is limited in the way. I hate those little guys that go like this. I just don't like them at all. And be that as it may, appreciate that this is a good example of how local government can work and be responsive to the needs of the community, and in this case, the business community, and it's a great example of good community action. So thank you.
With that being said, I would take a
I
motion.
have one little comment.
Okay, Mayor.
Only because we talked about it last week and we had said that Loveland did not allow them They do with certain regulations, have to have sign permits for so long. Like, I can tell you that I drove through Loveland the other day. Oh my gosh. Now that I've like started to look for them, because I just never look for them, there must be thousands of them, which became very annoying. So I just had to be very careful about what we even put in the final development code. And I'm for helping the businesses, and the ones here have never really bothered me. But if you started seeing them in every business, oh, it's just, we got to be careful. That's all.
Thanks, and I would say this board can always modify in the future if, as I call it, Armageddon of wind signs or something. With that being said, I'll take a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 15-25 with a revision to the expiration date to be January 6th, 2026, which will give a little bit of a window for removal after a holiday weekend.
I'll second.
Trustee Eigel moved to approve the resolution with the date modification. Mayor Pro Tem Sinak seconded. Any other comments? Seeing none, we can vote.
I still want to put a big dog with the ears flopping around.
Weebly wobblies. All right, the resolution or the ordinance change passes, and I slipped on the rails of the proper procedure for the public hearing. I was supposed to close the public hearing before we took the vote, but I should ask the town clerk's staff nonetheless whether any communications were received that are not in the board packet.
No public comment has been received.
And based on that, all the reports, statements, and exhibits and written communications were accepted as part of the record. The public hearing is officially closed. I do not see a reason, unless the town attorney tells me, that we have to revote. So we're good to go on that item. Thanks all. We will move on to the item 3, Colorado Association of Ski Towns, CAST 2026 Colorado Legislative Position Statement on Housing. And we have, wow, Manager Speedlin bangs. We've got the whole thing here today. Okay.
All right, well, Trustee Hazelton and Mayor Pro Tem Sinak did a lovely introduction to CAST, the Colorado Association of Ski Towns. I myself have been a member and on the housing task force with that organization, and Attorney Kramer is also involved and in the housing task force. In your packet, you'll have an outline of the legislation that's being a position statement on legislation that CAST is approving. There's also an additional memo that was placed on the dais that I didn't get in the packet. It's the same proposed legislation as last year. As it states, sometimes this legislation does take a couple years to go through. So we're not super surprised, but what we're asking this evening is that members like our community consider lending their support to the position on legislation that would give local governments tools and revenue options to address housing issues. The task force has developed these concept areas through various working groups and has the support of CAST Board of Directors. The 3 legislations are for short-term rental taxes, which would authorize counties and municipalities to refer short-term rental tax to voters with the proceeds of such revenues dedicated to the local workforce and affordable housing. The second one is local vacancy taxes, allowing municipalities and counties to refer residential vacancy tax to their voters, also known as the empty home tax, to incentivize homeowners to rent their homes to local residents rather than rent them at peak times and leave them empty most of the year. And the third is the local real estate transfer tax, allowing municipalities and counties to adopt fees on the transfer of real estate with the fee revenues to fund local affordable and workforce housing. Again, an affirmative action on this item just indicates that Estes Park, as a CAST member, supports the legislation, allowing jurisdictions the ability to consider these. It does not obligate any jurisdiction, it does not obligate Estes Park to actually create any of these revenue streams. I'm going to pass it over to Attorney Kramer, make sure there's nothing that I missed in that presentation.
Thank you, Manager Speedlin Bangs. No, I think you covered it. I'll just emphasize that this is purely enabling legislation. This would have no impact. None of these proposals would have any impact in any community that did not choose to pursue it. And also, as we talked about last year, this is, and as Manager Speedlin Bangs said, these are all proposals that, oh, I lost my train of thought. I apologize. But she covered it anyway, so we're good. Happy to answer any questions.
I'll first open to see if any member of the public wishes to speak on this item. And it looks clear, Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
Oh.
Too close.
It's going to sound funny coming from a CAS representative. I'm like completely against this. And I voted before because it enabled communities and I'm into local control. So I'm having a little problem with that. But I started really thinking about it and as against I am of at least one of these, if not two of these, I just have that much problem that I'm that much against it, that I don't say that another community has the right to vote in that murder is okay. Now, I know that's extreme. I get it. But if I'm that against it, and I think it's that against people's rights, I don't feel comfortable saying that another community can vote something in that I think is so against people's rights. So that's how I feel about it. I do have a question. The communities that are home rule could do this without this legislation, correct? This is just for statutory towns.
Actually, that's not entirely correct, Mayor Pro Tem. So there are aspects of the empty homes tax authorizing legislation that even home rules probably couldn't do today. There are aspects of it that they could. And local real estate transfer fees, that's something that some home rules have considered. But I also know from serving on that task force that home rule municipalities in particular would like to see legislation on that to give them extra backing in order to feel enabled to do this on their own.
Okay. And I understand the concept behind it, and I've had the conversations in CAS, and I understand the need for different things. These are just not one that I'm really back, and I'm so against it that it's, like I said, it's like me saying another community can make something that I think is so against people's rights that it's okay for them to vote it in as long as it's not my community. And I cannot get behind this. And so I can't vote for it, but that's just my comments on it.
That's fair,
Trustee
Mayor.
Brown.
But Actually, Mayor, if you don't mind, I remembered what I
go for
was
it.
going to say before. So, and it relates to exactly that. I've let the CAST leadership know that they can't necessarily count on the town board's approval this year just because we approved it last year. But the other thing I wanted to emphasize is, as I said last year, this really is meant, in my mind, to show support for other cast members and what they might want to do in their communities. And it might enable us in the future, if we're looking to do something that current statutes don't let us do, that other cast members might rally to our support as well. But that doesn't mean we should support it just for that reason, and I've made that clear too.
Thank you, Town Attorney. Trustee Brown.
Once again, I fully agree with Mayor Pro Tem Sinek. We're agreeing way more than we used to.
That's how it goes, yeah.
Uh-oh. But I have a number of reasons I don't support this. You know, as everyone knows, with 6E, we actually have two important tools for workforce housing. We have 6E, and we also have the impact fee on vacation rentals. And probably because of that, it is highly unlikely we would also authorize a local short-term rental tax. You know, it seems like the same basic thing. And I don't know exactly why, but the local empty homes tax rubs me really wrong. It's like, you know, we we are a community of vacation homes, whether they're literally vacation homes rented or not. It just seems like a message to the people that own these homes to, get out, and I just think that's not a message we want to do. And also the local transfer fees, even though it may legitimately and legally be a fee, let's face it, it's a tax in operation and in fact how it actually works. So I'm against all of them because of that, and I just think we have our own solutions to this that we were able to develop under existing law, and other communities could do the same. I don't want to be perceived as just a big pro-tax person, that we want more taxes, more taxes, more taxes, and I think that's one of the risks of approving this, that we will be perceived that way. So I intend to vote against this proposal.
Trustee Ogden.
When this came up last time, there was a lot of conversation afterwards. And it wasn't, people that heard the position of this board did not say, they're just voting for another community to support them, and that is not how it was perceived. And I agree with that perception, that if we support this, we are saying that we're behind that, we're behind that, we're behind that. And I am certainly not. And I would not support it in another community if I had a voice to say in another community, it's okay for you to tax people who make the decision to not be in their home. So this is an opportunity for me to say, no, I don't think that's okay here, and I don't think that's okay anywhere else. So I think that by not supporting this, I hope that my voice is heard in another community that settle down on taxes and let property rights reign as they may. So I wouldn't support this. I would echo the comments of both the trustees that have spoken, and strongly would say this is maybe an opportunity we should take to not get behind this.
I think one thing I've learned in being a cast member is that there's a lot of unique communities with a lot of different problems and solutions. And I think being able to look at our community, we do have funding streams that are able to address what we're looking at. As Attorney Kramer mentioned, there's other communities that have a very different view of short-term rentals. And so I think, as you mentioned, I think you guys have an opportunity to demonstrate to our local community what's important to us as far as tools go. But these are critical tools for some other communities.
Trustee Hazelton.
I think you've made it quite clear, and maybe I feel, a little different after being at CAS for the past couple of days, but I would be totally supportive of this, not because I support any one of these three tools. That's actually not what is being proposed, in my opinion, at this point. What I'm trying to decide with my vote is, do I believe in other communities finding creative solutions to mitigate the problems that their residents are asking them to mitigate? And if I was listening to another municipality have a conversation like this and say, well, I don't really believe in this kind of tax, so I don't think Estes Park should have the option to pursue it, that would send me to the moon, because I think that idea of local control feels so much more compelling to me, that the community can decide. If they all decide that empty homes tax is a terrible idea, I don't agree with it at all, that's for that community to decide. But in the same way that we had an opportunity with the change in 6E funding, it's possible other communities don't believe that that's the appropriate approach, but luckily we had the opportunity to go after it and our community supported it. Those are the kinds of things that I think we're going to have to be creative with, because a lot of the other solutions haven't been successful for other towns and areas of Colorado. So I'm supportive of it, simply just to give communities more tools in the toolkit, and they can decide if they want to use it or not. Certainly doesn't indicate my support for each one of these initiatives on their own or collectively, but I absolutely will be voting, or would vote to support this, depending on how the motion comes forward.
Other comments? Seeing none, we can take a motion.
I would move to approve the Town of Estes Park lending support to the 2026 legislative position statement on housing presented by CAST.
Do I have a second?
I'm going to go ahead and second it. I am torn too. I can see both sides. I hate to say no to something that maybe a town only has that option and their community is in favor. So, but on the other hand, I wouldn't want somebody doing that that we wouldn't be looking at these options for our community at all. So I will go ahead and second it on the stance that it is just to say that other communities may have different options or no options other than these to help with the problems that are so well known in our community and theirs. So I would hate to not let them have that opportunity.
Trustee Hazelton moved to approve the it's not a resolution or an ordinance, it's just a kind of an endorsement of that. And Trustee Youngland seconded it. Ultimately, I don't think the position of Estes probably changes the course of history on it. You know, the legislature will probably proceed with whatever it proceeds with. But are there any other comments before we go to vote? I don't see any. We can vote. Recognizing we have only 6 trustees here tonight, and stop voting and operator decide. Nice message. I don't think I've seen that one yet. Okay, who hit some weird button here? We have a 3-3, which means the measure does not pass. The motion does not pass.
Correct, Mayor. So I'll be reporting to CAST that the board has not chosen to support the position statement this year. I want to have full disclosure here because I do chair the Housing Task Force for CAST and I'm on the CML Executive Board. We will be discussing this and I'll be sharing my opinions with those organizations as we move forward in my capacity with those organizations. But I'll be clear every time I do that this is not Estes Park that is proposing these things. This is something being proposed by CAST and possibly something being proposed or supported by CML.
Thanks. And yeah, the nature of the vote makes it evident that the board's a little bit torn over this one and sees both sides. Okay, we'll move forward. Item 4, continue an ordinance to vacate a portion of Stanley Circle Drive right-of-way to September 9, 2025. Deputy Town Administrator Dan Morby.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This one's pretty straightforward, so I told Planner Hornbeck that he could stand down for tonight's meeting. In the very short version is that we intended to have an item before you tonight to consider vacating a portion of the Stanley Circle Drive right-of-way, I can't speak this evening, in order to accommodate new housing development that's going to be proposed on that property. We notified the neighbors that would be under consideration by the town board at tonight's meeting, but for a variety of reasons, we ended up having to push that back, and so this simply gives us the approval needed to move that item from tonight into to the next meeting on September 9th. I did confer with community development staff, and we depending on your action tonight, will be getting notification to the neighbors of the new date.
Any public comment on this item? Do I have a motion on this? Or any questions to Deputy Town Administrator? I'll take a motion.
I move to continue an ordinance to vacate a portion of Stanley Circle Drive right-of-way to September 9th, 2025.
A second.
Trustee Hazelton moved to continue the ordinance mentioned here. Mayor Pro Tem seconded, and we can vote. And good to go. Passes 6-0. We're into our final report and discussion item, 2026 Annual Workforce Housing and Child Care Funding Plan Draft Review. Too bad we couldn't have had all three of your items in a row, Director or Manager Bangs, but here we go. You get to have the final act.
You thought you were done with me after the
Yeah.
policy discussions in June, but here I am. All right, this evening we are looking at just the draft of the 6E funding plan for 2026. As you may remember, this is something we do on an annual basis that's required with our IGA between the town and the county with the use of these funds. So right now we are going into this Q3. Visit Estes Park has looked at the revenue projection. We're reviewing the draft right now, so you all are looking at it. The Housing Authority has already seen it. Visit Estes Park sees it on Thursday. We're going to take all of that in addition to community feedback and get the final draft to the joint meeting between Visit Estes Park, the town board, and the county commissioners in October. Again, that'll be the final draft. Hopefully we don't have any changes at that time. That needs to be filed with the county by November 1st, and then they have to approve it or request changes by December 1st. So we started with our outreach, as we do every year during the summer. It kind of sneaks up on us every summer after doing our impact report in the spring. We offer 2 public community forums. This year we did one in person and one was available virtually. We always have an online feedback form that has not changed much in the last 3 years, asking community members to review the previous plan, the impact report or the financial report from the previous year, and just let us know how on track we are. The major questions that we do ask are just the general, are we on track with strategies and objectives, but also financially, the split between housing and childcare objectives, and then those priority areas. As you might remember, we'll be going through here the key priority areas of childcare tuition assistance, the out-of-school programming, all that, and housing with the new development, land banking. So we'll go through each one of those together. We asked the community how much money should go toward each of those, what's the priority within all of those, again, how are we implementing those objectives. The needs assessment for both the housing needs assessment was conducted and presented in 2023. The child care needs assessment and strategic plan was presented in 2024. So we still are operating, relying on a lot of data and objectives that were presented in those as well. Moving forward, since the ballot initiative for 6E funding passed in 2022, 2023 was the first year we received revenue. The split between childcare and housing was 88-12. 2025, this year, was the first year that we split that 80-20, providing additional revenue. Additional revenue was held with the town to address childcare issues. That is a strategic shift that we work together with the Housing Authority to kind of decide what those next implementation steps are going to be and how much funding is going to be needed for that, and then adjusting on a regular basis. And so sometimes, some of the feedback we got from the community, and you might see that as the last section of your plan, they are concerned that childcare isn't getting enough money. We like to make sure they understand that there is a capacity issue, and a lot of the first couple years we're really addressing that reactive foundation, creating the systems and processes so that we could build capacity on that. So this 80-20 split is reactionary to knowing that that is going to cost more money to build some of that capital infrastructure. So like I said, going into 2026, Scott and I really feel, Executive Director Moulton and I feel really strongly that, those first few years we felt really reactive. You heard, we're building the plane as it's flying way too many times. but we feel like we were able to react and address some of those critical things that came up in both the needs assessments and strategic plans for childcare and housing. Moving forward, we feel like we can build upon that foundation by addressing lower income workforce housing. I know that's been a conversation that's been directed by this town board. Also looking at more home ownership programs and development. The Housing Authority has done a really great job adding capacity for rental units. The school district mentioned this year that this is one of the first years they didn't have staff pull out because they couldn't find housing. So that made a huge impact for our local workforce. And then when it comes to childcare, again, literally building some capital and facilities and increasing capacity. So now that we have some of that stability with programming. Moving through the plan, the draft plan as it was presented, the 4 priorities areas for childcare, starting with tuition assistance. This is the next 2026 objective to expand and evaluate childcare affordability by increasing eligibility to include low to middle income households and school-age children. So right now, we're kind of on that expand and evaluate of the programs, the new program that we implemented with middle income, as well as continuing to work with EVIC's Family Resource Center on gathering data and now looking at family, friends, and neighbors for tuition assistance and what that'll look like with 6E funding. Out of school programming or school age programs, again, we've seen huge growth in capacity. I'd say out of school, school age programming has been a really great success in seeing some of the subsidies and grants increasing capacity. You might have remembered from the beginning of the year, we had Boys and Girls Club here as well as the elementary school, and talking about how we've already reached a lot of our goals that we were hoping to achieve by 2027 by increasing the after school care and summer care. We do have an out of school programming grant that will be available that's going to really focus on expanding during those Monday development days or like school breaks, holiday breaks. Oh, I tried to be creative with my... All right. Child care workforce support. So this, in the past, one of the first things I rolled out in this role in August 2023 was the workforce subsidy, and that was gearing up for winter, making sure that providers had funding to stabilize their operations as well as provide wages for their staff so that they would feel like they were receiving wages to help them get through the winter seasons. So that hasn't changed much, but the objective is to continue to support wage increases, benefits for early childhood and childcare professionals, closer to a livable wage. Again, that livable wage is about $25 an hour. We're still working toward that in some of our programs, and we're also incentivizing licensed childcare providers through that new licensed provider bonus that we discussed in the study session. The Child Care Stability Initiative was brought up as a program that we wanted to talk about in the study session, and so I've pivoted real quickly to add a couple slides so that we can have a discussion about what that would look like to include family, friends, and neighbors. We did receive applications from the following organizations here, child care providers, and one of the later exhibits, it does have what they were eligible for and what the review committee has recommended for the board to approve. As a reminder, this was updated in June when we did our Policy 225 updates. The Child Care Stability Initiative was developed in alignment with state licensing quality rating, not only to incentivize licensed care, but also help fill the gap in supporting the costs associated with meeting those licensing standards, as well as the high cost of living and operations within the Estes Valley. Really requiring those livable wages as well was a key outcome we wanted to see through this program. As providers keep tuition rates low to meet the needs for families, they're often reducing their revenue and then are unable to pay those wages and are unable to dedicate funding to essential capital costs. So again, this was reactive to provide that stability. Providers have become very dependent upon this. These funds provided stability, again, through some of that low enrollment. You have one low enrollment month, and with not getting that revenue from tuition, and there was a provider that considered having to, lay off a staff member and was able to keep that staff member on because of this funding that was built within her business plan. As a reminder, large centers would receive a base subsidy of $25,000. Small center receives a base of $15,000. A licensed family child care home provider would receive $5,000. And then we have different brackets of school-age children based on how many kids they're serving. So in asking about the eligibility of providers, it doesn't state that a provider has to be licensed. However, these are the bullet points that are included in the initiative. You might remember when we reviewed this last time, Trustee Youngland noticed the provide care for at least 4 children who are unrelated to the caregiver, and we had a short discussion about what that meant. That bullet point in and of itself would make it so unlicensed or license exempt providers wouldn't be eligible for this programming. For example, the Estes Valley Park and Rec District is unlicensed. However, they do meet those state of Colorado guidelines for providing that kind of care. And so they are eligible for this programming for that after-school Cubs Den program. In the same breath, Boys and Girls Club was not licensed for a while until they decided that they wanted to offer CCAP, the Child Care Assistance Program, for recipients that are in their summer programming. And so they became licensed so they could offer that assistance. So I guess this is kind of the, what do you want me to do? Some feedback or direction on how we would want to include license exempt providers in programs like this that are built upon a framework that really are wanting to provide that operational funding gap. So I slipped that in there real quick. I think we can have a conversation maybe at the end within questions or? Okay, thank you. So then moving on, like I said, we are ready to increase capacity. We feel like we have a lot of things in place, programs for families, programs for providers to provide stability. We're eager to really start dedicating funds that have been rolling over, as well as this additional 8% to increasing capacity. We want to do it strategically and data-driven, as we've done just about everything within this program. So we're focused on developing a child care facility master plan for the Estes Valley. A lot of that will have to do with figuring out, the town now owns a facility and we're leasing it. How much do we want that to be a part of the use of 6E funds and long-term capacity building? How much are we dedicating to private development, expansion of existing programs, all that? So a lot of the data has been gathered with the needs assessment. A lot of the data had been gathered with the cost modeling that we conducted with the tuition assistance program. So we're going to kind of follow up on that, and we'll be able to provide a better plan for dedicated funding. Of course, we want to continue to collect and save year over year so that we can be flexible and reactive to opportunities like purchasing of mountaintop facility. Again, within our policy update, we discussed the child care facility account. We want to request that there's the flexibility of transferring $30,000 from 6E funds over to that facility account to support. We applied for a grant. We haven't heard if we've been awarded or not, but it's specific to addressing ADA compliance upgrades that we found when we purchased the property. So we have a kind of slowly but surely some steps that we want to conduct in the next 5 years to be able to address all of those issues. This first major one that we requested grant funding for was for the back ramp from the back door. Unfortunately, there's a gap from the ramp to the ground, and so there's a step at the end of the ramp, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And just some additional accessible equipment in the playground area. So we may not have to transfer that $30,000 if we receive a grant, but we do want to kind of stay within those that plan to address these over time. Again, we have a funding allocation so that we could distribute up to $300,000 for the stability initiative. Again, up to $100,000 for capital and facility grants. That'd be based on applications we'd receive. If we don't receive any, we wouldn't distribute any funds. Tuition assistance, we have $300,000 here. Out of school funding grant, $50,000, and then that new license incentive program, we allocated $5,000, which would be great if we saw 5 new license providers come on board this next year. So a total of $750,000 in distribution, up to. We still have like I said, a healthy fund balance right now, a healthy rollover, so we'd still be increasing that. Again, here are the actual numbers in our 2027 targets based on the needs assessment and strategic plan, and then our goals for growth in 2026. We've checked off just about all of them, except for, no, we have checked off, no, sorry. After school spots, we want to see about 10 more after school spots, and we want to see an infant classroom added. We have 2 years to do it. Tuition assistance, of course, we have some dedicated goals that were introduced in that policy 225 now, so we're measuring and we're evaluating based on achieving those goals and objectives. We're looking at gathering data for tuition assistance that wasn't included in our cost modeling. So we didn't include family, friends, and neighbors in our cost modeling for tuition assistance, and we didn't include school age. So we're gonna have to gather some more data and coordinate with EVIC's Family Resource Center as well as our other organizations to see how we can see what the need is and then again dedicate some funding to that.
Does the 60 and 15, do those refer to number of families, number of kids?
We're gonna say number of families.
Number of families,
Yep,
thanks.
thank you. All right, and moving on to workforce housing. Again, we feel really good about what was able to be acquired and converted into workforce housing units. So kind of pulling that off the top priority while still being flexible in ability to acquire and preserve homes, but really the focus in moving forward is going to be in development. Development is the long game. It does not happen overnight. We're not going to put 100 units on overnight. So really looking at the planning and initiating some of the ground up development that the Estes Valley or the Housing Authority has been working on in the background and is going to continue to work on, knowing that it's probably going to take a couple years before a lot of that groundbreaking happens. Continuing to work in alignment with the needs assessment and the comprehensive plan when developing those new properties. Again, focusing on some of those for sale units as well, rather than just rental units. Assistance programs, there's been some really great opportunities through the, again, rental assistance program. If you remember, it's either a $4,800 one-time grant to support the first and last month's rent to be able to get into, or a deposit to be able to get into a unit, or it's a $400 a month subsidy. So that was essentially a pilot program last year and was launched as a full program with some slight adjustments to eligibility just because of the trends that were coming in with applicants. And that was launched in May or June? May, officially. So that's hit the ground running, doing great. Now again, looking at focused on ownership, the down payment assistance program that's been presented to you, getting that launched, as well as some of these other initiatives with ADUs and private development. Staffing capacity, as I had said in the beginning, this is a lot of these priorities were established when we were creating the framework for 6E prior to even the ballot initiative. However, when looking at staffing capacity, the Housing Authority has been able to be responsive to what they needed to be able to grow into what the additional work 6E funding brought to the organization. They feel confident in where they're at right now to continue that work. So keeping staffing capacity is a priority when we're saying, yep, we're staffed. didn't feel like a good use of the funding plan. And so we're going to remove that for now as a priority, and just continue to have those roles at the Housing Authority dedicated to the work that 6E funds are doing for our community. When we look at metrics, goals, targets, again, property acquisition, we don't really have a goal for acquiring more property in 2026. We've already accomplished our 2028 target. When we're looking at the deed restriction purchase program, you're like, I haven't heard about that. That's been kind of sidelined. If you have questions about that, I can let Executive Director Moulton answer that. But really, we're seeing opportunities through other programs, and we're focused on what we're seeing in those rather than creating a deed restriction purchase program at this time. It may be something that we do to preserve units moving forward, but right now we're kind of just letting that lay as a strategy or a tool that we may implement in the future. Again, new development, even though it is a priority, we're not going to see 100 units pop up overnight with a development, but in our 2028 target, the needs assessment does state 300 to 400 units. That seems scary, but we've already preserved 117 of those. So you can subtract that from the overall additional units that we need. Down payment assistance, there has always been a down payment assistance program that is funded by the Real Estate Board of Realtors. Thank you. The Housing Authority has been looking at making that a little bit more robust to serve the needs of what it looks like to purchase a house in the Estes Valley. So there is a recipient that has received down payment assistance through that other program. You might have heard us say the Enhanced Down Payment Assistance Program. That's what we're looking at launching moving forward. Again, rental assistance, we have 32 receiving that assistance now. The goal is 40 in 2026. Our goal, or the needs assessment had said about 10 to 20 annually, so we're doubling it. All right. Did I miss anything? Do you want to add? Awesome.
Couple items.
Yes.
With the rollover and the good additional income and the 20% for the child care, it would seem like there will be a good headroom in case requests happen to be larger than 200,000, for example. And that'll be something that I assume we will consider at a later date when those kind of numbers come forth. On the child stability, how do you say it?
Child Care Stability Initiative.
Yeah, you know, I'm very committed to the license exempt relating to tuition assistance. Very committed to that, and I think we heard a pretty good consensus from the board on that. The Child Care Stability Initiative, I don't have quite that same feeling on, especially when you mention, you know, some of the factors that come into play there. So I think I'm going to listen to other board members a little bit on this and hear some opinions. So Trustee Brown, go for it.
Well, initially, I've got a question. If you can go back to the slide that on the child care, the assistance, yeah.
I have
Not
the
the one
eligibility and
before.
then the details as well.
No, the other one, the tuition assistance.
The targets for tuition assistance?
No, yes, I think it is the targets and the dollars. There we go. So what bothers me when I look at this is if you divide the funding for low income at 200,000 by the 60 for low income assistance, that comes out to about $3,300 per assisted family. While if you divide, or no, I'm sorry, yes. While if you divide the funding for middle income by the 15, that comes out to about double that. 6,600. So I'd like to understand what's going on here.
Again, so the cost modeling and how we initially came up with these numbers was based on looking at 0 to 5 licensed providers. So by serving school-age children in the summer, we've seen a huge increase in distribution of funds, and EVICS will be able to respond to this in their reporting. But based on the conversations we had leading up to this presentation, that's my understanding. It's been a lot more funding has gone towards school-age children this summer than they had projected. And then again, if I don't know how many family, friends, and neighbors providers we have.
Right,
I don't know how many
course.
kids they're serving, because one FFN provider could serve 5 various families over the time. And so there's, with the lack of concrete data that went into the cost modeling, I
Okay,
don't know
fair
what that
enough.
could look
Good.
like. So that's where I think we have an opportunity to gather some of that data and have a different projection.
Yes.
Because, yeah, we've tripled our budget.
Yeah, essentially you didn't have
Unexpected
the
budget.
data is really what you're saying. Okay, that's fair enough. I think, Jason, the plane has landed. And now we're doing maintenance on the plane as we move forward. I just want to compliment you and Scott for working together so effectively on this. And it's been impressive for me to watch because I'm liaison to housing authority, so I see that all the time, and it's pretty amazing to see how this is developed. I'm sure there's more to develop, of course, there always is, and I'm pretty excited about the down payment assistance program and how that works, because that could be a real game changer. But I really want to compliment on how you work together, and particularly going from 8812 to 8020, and I know you asked everybody to comment about that. Well, it's hard for the citizenry to make sense out of that, as we know. But I like how it was explained at one of these events that essentially housing, there's kind of an unlimited need for money. But childcare is a little different, and we can kind of project what we might need for childcare, and the rest is going to go for housing, which makes a lot of sense to me. And I like the fact that you're building up money for property acquisition in the childcare area, because that really is going to be a big number at some point that we're going to have to buy into. And so I like the reserve process you're going through. So my compliments to a project that's been very interesting and difficult to develop. And I think you two have done a great job with, and my compliments.
Thank you for that. I think how the ballot initiative was written allows for a lot of flexibility, which is a great thing for us. It could be a really terrible thing too, but I think it's really gotten us to where we are now, and we have a lot of other communities that are looking at us like, wait, how did you do that? What was the framework? So I really want to give it up to the people that developed that framework and did a lot of that groundwork leading up to the ballot initiative.
I have to echo Trustee Brown's comments. We both came onto this board at the same time, and yeah, there was a lot of flux, if you
You're very
will,
patient.
that was happening, and as the plane was being built. And, you know, in my early years, or all my years here, you know, childcare, workforce housing, and it's really happening. And so I'm just very gratified to be able to see it and help support it. Mayor Pro Tem Sinek.
Just a quick question, and I just wonder, for the middle income assistance, how we, up until this time, we haven't really offered middle income. How did we get the word out that we actually have it? Because a lot of people wouldn't be looking for it even.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of an important thing, because I do think our middle income needs help.
Yeah.
But they've gotten that condition that they make too much to get any kind of help.
Absolutely. So I think in the last update to trustees, I gave some quick data, but it did just open on August 1st. Leading up to that August 1st launch, we really worked directly with our providers. And that was intentional because we really wanted to capture everyone that was already enrolled in care for the fall, rather than getting inundated with a lot of people that may not even have their kid in care yet. And so we focused on prioritizing kids that were already enrolled in care. And then now we've been pushing for we have an open application now to anybody. We're seeing some uptakes. We were at the EVIX Family Resource Fair connecting with some families and saw some enrollment there. So, yeah.
Trustee Youngland.
A couple things. I would definitely be in favor of that 30,000 for the ADA improvement.
Thank you.
for the childcare facility. I voiced it before. I'm not against providing tuition assistance for the FFN, is that what, at all, because I think they're important part of the whole picture. But what I would like to see is maybe a little bit more encouragement to become licensed. And I don't know if maybe adjusting the bonus or some type of different criteria maybe to enhance them, because I really think there's a lot that they can learn and achieve and pass on to their kids and even their families, with that education piece that comes with licensing.
Yep.
And again, I don't want to have anybody think I'm against family friendly or family FFN at all, because there's a place for it.
Yeah.
But have you thought, first question, how much did you give last year of those $1,000 bonuses for the FFN?
That'll be a brand new program based on some of the conversations and feedback we got from EVIX. Because again, we're seeing a lot of people wanting to become licensed because they have all these programs now. But there was kind of a gap between getting licensed and then getting into that quality rating that would give them this stability funding of $5,000. And so now, upon getting licensed, they'll receive $1,000, and hopefully that kind of pushes them into that next quality rating stage.
Okay.
And they would be working with a coach with ECCLC to get them through those quality programs.
I mean, the outreach, you know, or the amount of things that they have at their fingertips, if they proceed to, you know, go down the licensing path, I think is huge.
And we want to incentivize that, right?
I was wondering if we can increase that incentive somehow. I mean, I don't want to say, well, you have to be licensed, but if you maybe do A and B, then you get this.
Yeah.
And if you do all of the steps, then you would get that 1,000. You know, maybe do a little bit more incentivizing in that realm.
Incentivizing licensing, but then also incentivizing certain criteria or training or experiences that FFN providers would have.
That's what I want.
I think
is
we can
because
do
there's
that.
so many, there's a lot of things out there for them, and instead of having all or nothing, I guess is what I'm getting at, I would like to see incentive of, oh, go get the CPR, go get this, and if you do that, then you get X bonus. If you have a coach and you do this for such, you know, a time period, you get that bonus. You know, kind of a tiered thing to incentivize.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think that only helps the children that they're caring for, and then helps their business or whatever. So those would be the things I would like to see. And let's see. So going back to the license, so we went with Larimer County and they only will take licensed providers for the middle income.
That's how the program is set up right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I will be really interested in the data that comes out of it for this year, you know, and to see if are we missing a big gap by doing that. So
we're going to dive into data.
Yeah.
I'm excited too. I think we'll be back in March with an update on the middle income assistance.
Okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
Mr.
Thank you.
Dan Weber, did you have a reply?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to hit home the point that would be a new program that we've heard interest in, and also to make the point that the Child Care Stability Initiative program is one specifically geared towards the larger providers, and it is incentivizing them to have high quality care. It's incentivizing them to become licensed, and in exchange, they get additional funding for all of the things that were up there before, a living wage, opportunities for benefits and things like that. So based on the conversation that was had at the study session, I just wanted to be very clear that this is one of many different programs that we have that is actually geared towards the larger providers, not FFN.
Okay. I just have one. Can you go off?
Oh, well, you had trustee Hazelton.
I just want to, and I think I made this clear in the previous presentation, I would not be in favor of general operating cost for FFN, as I stated, for the purposes of non-inspection and things like that.
So-
But for wage and things like that, I would agree with that.
And that's what we're looking at here on the screen is, so if a large center receives $25,000, 75% has to go to those upper bullet points. If there's remaining funds available, then they can utilize that for operating costs or for a capital improvement. That has to be approved by the town prior to them doing any of that. So that it goes on to say that in that last bullet point.
But for FFN,
Right.
I'm
I'm
not.
hearing maybe in addition to this, that would include FFNs for
Yes.
some different criteria.
Right.
Okay.
A whole section different for FFN.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's actually exactly what I was, at the risk of like adding more bureaucratic layers. Like, is there a childcare stability initiative? And I'm looking at the Google Doc that you had linked in the packet. Is there a way to have like that? That's for the larger licensed, although, there are some nods here, right, to the, if unlicensed, you have to meet the state guidelines, right,
Sure.
like that. But maybe there's the one that's for that, and then maybe okay, here's the addendum. If we do want to offer this stability initiative, which, I could see support for that. I mean, I could be supportive of that if we had some of those things that you talked about. Maybe maybe it's 100% of the funds must be used to support the workforce, right? Or
Well, an FFN provider would be one person watching a couple kids. You
Right.
know what I mean? And so when it comes to wages, that would be hard. But I think I have a pretty clear direction, and I
Okay.
think we can get creative in our solutions as to how to incentivize or how to support FFN providers through some basic funding mechanisms while also having criteria like this. This will essentially continue into the final annual plan as it is, but we're going to add some stuff that would address some of the FFN comments that have been brought up.
Okay, great. And then also really supportive of the 30K transfer. I'd made that note as well. I think that's a great idea.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to commend you to one of the things that I thought was just really compelling as I was reading that draft is, a lot of the times I think we hear feedback that's like basically references government bloat or lack of transparency or whatever the comment might be, but it's kind of rooted in this idea of like there's a lot of money floating around and what does it all do? So your honesty and transparency with the housing authority, the staffing piece of it, and those kinds of things were really helpful for me. Great talking points too, to just to show how tight y'all are running the ship, but also to just kind of keep in mind that like the money that's being collected is really being optimized for the community and not, housing authority staff are community members as well, right? But we're going for the kids, we're going for workforce, like we're really trying to take every dollar and put it in that direction. And you all have, just that honesty in your presentation in that draft was, I just wanted to commend you for that. I think that was really helpful to be like, hey, we thought we might need this, but we've been able to, small but mighty team over there.
They really
and
are.
Likewise, small but mighty team over here. It's just really great to hear that. So thank you for pointing that out instead of just, it could be easy to just slide that in, but to call that out, helpful for us to understand how you're making some of those decisions. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Keep collecting that praise, trustee Eigel.
There's so much here to process. It is one of the most overwhelming things for me in this entire assignment of being a trustee. Workforce and housing, it is confusing. There's so many layers. I think that there's so much evolution, so much. So I try to read everything and I try to keep up with it, but I also feel like I bring, I'm like the clearinghouse sometimes for questions and I don't have the answers. I know where to direct people, but I want to relay some feedback that I've gotten. And for whatever value it is, I don't know what to do with it other than share it with you. I have heard from real estate sector developers, retail workforce, and a lot from lodging, that there is a high level of scrutiny over this program. Obviously, it adds a cost to lodging for people who are visiting our community. I think it's very misleading to say it's the tax you don't have to pay. And when that was first promoted that way as the tax we don't have to pay locally, I think we are paying it. I think we're paying it as a community. And I think that we have to be cognizant of the scrutiny that is coming from people who are impacted, maybe not that are receiving funding or that are receiving housing or the beneficiaries. While I would argue it's good for the community, but there is scrutiny and there has been some conversation recently about, is it too much? Is that tax too much? I have a sense that there's an abundance of funding here and we're trying to sort out where to put it all. So, you make that face and response, but every time we come, there's a new program and I don't know how you manage it all. I swear I will take an entire week sometime and I will understand it better. So I really would defer to either of you as the experts in this because I can't get through it. I don't spend every day in it. And I'm not providing a criticism as much as I am referring the input that I've received to you so you're aware of what I hear. I don't know how we relay input from the community when someone is killing it with washing the trash cans downtown or working on the flowers. Those are frontline people that can relay information back to the town. Does that information come back to the town? I don't know. But if you tell me something, I am going to relay it. So that is what I'm doing here publicly, is sharing that there's an elevated level of scrutiny. People want this to be a good value for what it's costing the community.
Yeah, I think that Executive Director Moulton and I are both incredibly open to having those conversations with the community. Oftentimes I've found that just sitting down and having a conversation about what it looks like and providing the impact report and answering questions alleviates a lot of the concerns because the dollar amount's high, right?
is,
And when we talk about lodging and being in a tourism-run industry or community, that can cause a lot of fear. I think every data point gives us a story. And so even though we, might not have gotten our feedback that a critical employer like the school district, doesn't feel like they have a housing issue for their staff for the first time in the last 10 years.
Good information
Through
there, yeah.
conversation, that comes up. And so really just trying to be data-driven through our needs assessments and through our community surveys, or like you mentioned, the community survey just for our, for the town. All of those are data points that we put into place. And then again, just objectives and then really cycling through those. I saw you move. Did you want to make a comment about how we receive feedback? I'm always willing to have a conversation when it comes to the use of these funds. I think, as Trustee Hazelton mentioned, transparency is incredibly important.
It is.
Our credibility is really important, not only as individuals, but as a board and having a tax initiative like this. So that's why I take my role really seriously in reporting on what's going on, and so that there's no gaps or something that's going to come back and be like, wait, you had $5 million a year and you did what? I have that fear as well. So let us know if anything comes up or if you want a one-on-one conversation. I think through the more detailed impact report and just continuing to evolve to have more of our information public facing, it's definitely reactive to comments like that. Like, what are they even doing?
Right. And I appreciate that you're receptive to it. And I would like the public to come and articulate their own concerns or compliments because that's so valuable to each of us to hear it firsthand. And it's not good enough to run it through me. But I also direct people to y'all directly. So thank you for being receptive to it.
Yeah, thank you.
I agree with Trustee Eigel on the volume of information for the last item of the night. And yet you did point to us and highlight some of the things you wanted feedback on. And I think you've gotten good stuff, Mayor Pro Tem.
This is nothing you asked for. But, and your comment, and you were there too for it, so I just want to make sure the future-wise, that we be careful about waiting lists. But I never had a concept, waiting lists for like daycare, because I never had a concept that people in some of the other communities, which have a larger number of younger people, granted, but they put themselves on the wait list before they ever have kids, which I thought was kind of ingenious. I would never have thought about it, but there are people that are putting themselves on the wait list before they even have kids, and there's probably maybe people on the wait list before they even considering having kids. Exactly, but I didn't want to say that because I don't be judgment, but it's just amazing to me
Yeah.
that thought process in people's heads. So just
Well,
future-wise.
especially in our community, we only have 6 licensed spots. For an infant, that's a kid under 1. So if you only have 6 spots, you're like, there's no way my kid's going to be 2 by the time my name is up. So we don't use the wait list really to carry a whole lot of, it doesn't demonstrate need very much in our community.
Do you have what you need?
I feel like I do. Thank you for letting me drop in that Child Care Stability Initiative, shake that out tonight so that when you get the final draft, hopefully those are addressed and we can always pivot and move that into the next meeting or whatever too. So.
Well, thanks. And again, underlining it again, it is just so great that this is moving forward. And I know there's challenges and scrutinization and all of that good stuff, and that's good. Keep it healthy, but it's a wonderful place to be compared to where we were 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
With all that being said, thanks to Officer Mason for the safety and security. Thanks so much to Sarah out of the town clerk's office for, being in the driver's seat, and to Bunny, as always, because she's like the rock and the foundation. Thanks to you folks for sticking with us, to BBB for having the on-site media coverage, and this meeting is adjourned.